It's the 1st of August, 2023. I'm Anthony Davis from 5 Minute News, and we are here reacting to the news that Donald Trump has been indicted on 4 counts, indicted yet again, and I'm joined here by Fred Wellman, who also probably had the same emotional kind of reflux as I did. As the news broke. Yeah. So, we've been waiting for this, Fred, and those of us that do the news and are independent journalists, we kind of have been prepared for this moment over the last few weeks, as Donald Trump and his lawyers have been kind of waiting for this moment. What he actually put out on Truth Social, I'll read in a minute, he put out on Truth Social a statement which came out like within seconds, so he obviously had that ready. Just denying everything and basically saying that the whole thing is a witch hunt. But there's also 6 co-conspirators. They're not named, and this is what's most interesting. An attorney or 3 attorneys. 3 attorneys, I think. A Justice Department official. Another attorney's number 5, and a political consultant is number 6. Any guesses?
Yeah, well, Giuliani, Eastman. Who was the one arranging Cleta Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
I bet. Who was the one arranging the electors, though? It's not Stephen Miller, though. I know he was involved. Like, who was arranging the electors? It's a mystery, but I mean, it's not. We'll have it solved in the next hour or so. I mean, and the real question, of course, is why they unindicted at this point. Are they cooperating witnesses? Didn't say cooperating. He said unindicted co-conspirators. So that's one of the big questions I think we're going to have to answer is, are they cooperating or are they going to be future charges? And we already know that Jack Smith isn't afraid to just file more charges. He'll get the initial batch in, and then he'll file, like he did with the Mar-a-Lago case. He added more charges later. So I think this might be one of those cases where we don't have the final number of charges that are going to come out of this thing. They're very serious charges. I mean, I think 3 of them are 5 years apiece, and one of them 20-year apiece. And reading, I was quickly reading through the indictment before we joined. What's interesting to me, I think, is when you look at it, Anthony, is it's all stuff we knew, right? It's like it really is just it's almost a news article reading the history of what happened after January 6th. But now it's in the case of being an indictment that this was illegal. I mean, a lot of us have been saying that from day one. This is what you're doing is illegal. What you're doing is illegal. It's just there's certain gratification to see that in the form of an indictment for a change.
The thing that I feel certainly as a European or former European, it was Europe when I left. It's not Europe anymore. Is that the idea that you can have a president attempt to overturn an election and then still run for president, and no one seems to bat an eyelid. And it seems to me that, this is what I was waiting for. Somebody actually saying, no, you cannot attempt a coup, you cannot try and overturn an election, you cannot be a sore loser and refuse the peaceful transfer of power, which of course is like baked into that's what he signed up for. That's his oath of office. Was this this peaceful transfer of power, and that you cannot get away with it. And really, that's the thing that I feel is that Jack Smith has been the one, and of course the grand jury, because this is up to the grand jury. It's not Jack Smith's doing. This is the grand jury's doing. Did you notice? I don't know if you had a chance to watch the press conference. It was very brief that Jack Smith gave, but he seemed a little nervous. I've never seen him like that before. He was shaking a little bit because that is the magnitude and seriousness of these charges. And he was basically saying, what I was looking for, that you cannot do this in the United States of America. No wonder he was feeling a little anxious.
Yeah, and my admiration for the man keeps going up. I mean, I think the professionalism he shows, the dispassionate discourse that with what he applies. I'm saying he's dispassionate. I do want him to be nervous, and I want him to take the seriousness of this. This isn't a lark. It's also not a political witch hunt. It is, I watched that unfold. I know where you were that day. I was with the Lincoln Project then. We were still celebrating the fact that we'd won. After all this time, all the fighting, that he had lost the election. And I watched that day unfold with my son on the couch because we thought we were working. And just watching it unfold and the visceral anger I felt, especially as a veteran in the military, to see our capital under attack, viciously under attack, and to know Trump had encouraged all of it. Trump, they were there for him, and his people had done it. Michael Flynn and Roger Stone, all these people had encouraged it. So I saw what I wanted to see from Jack Smith, an understanding of how serious this was to our nation. That it isn't just his free speech saying stuff. Trump being Trump, he can say whatever he wants. The number of Republicans that just wrote it off as, and people who wrote it off as, oh well, he can say what he wants. Free speech. It's not. It's a criminal collusion. It's a lie. He lays out very clearly that he was told over and over and over that was not true. That there was no interference, and then they just thought they could just do what they want. And I'm thrilled to see Smith taken seriously. And then, of course, let's talk about the fact that it's in D.C. The judge,
Trump-appointed judge, which makes a nice change to
Obama. Obama appointed.
Oh, sorry.
Right. Yep.
Tanya. I forgot about Obama for a minute.
Yeah, that guy. Tanya Chutkan. Yeah, Tanya Chutkan. By the way, a judge who's been giving January 6th defendants longer sentences than the government asked for. This isn't this chicken shit going on party. This isn't the silliness going on down in Florida. There's not going to be games with the dates. These are judges in D.C. who have been trying his foot soldiers this whole time. You can't incite violence. I mean, incitement to violence is a crime, period. That's what he did on a national scale. Be there, it'll be wild. I would go to the Capitol, I'll be with you. I mean, there's just time where Trump inserted himself into this, got his people gassed up, and then lit the flame. And that is what he has to pay a price for that. And it's not political. It's not, oh, well, I'm running for president. Jesus, he announced he was running for president as soon as the damn election was over. Because for this very reason, and I don't know. I'm gratified. I'm glad. I'm just really impressed by Jack Smith and what he's doing, the way he's doing it, the way he's not seeking the limelight. He's not talking all the time like these other idiots in the past. He's doing what we asked him to do, which was find the crime if there's a crime, charge the crime and then prosecute the crime. And the fact that honestly, this isn't going to be like Florida. This isn't going to be like the other cases. I think all three cases, Florida, even New York, he's dodged stuff. Even the Georgia, he's able to dodge these because he's like what is it, the Matrix. The way this guy dodges bullets, I don't know, man. DC federal court, the judges have seen case after court case of the people who took that guidance and ran with it. I don't know. I think this might be the one finally where we'll actually see some justice for a change.
It's a 45-page indictment and lays out in stark detail how Trump knowingly spread false allegations about fraud, convened this false slates of electors, and attempted to block certification of the election on January 6th. Of course, we know that he thought Mike Pence was going to do his bidding. Mike Pence took advice, and the advice he was given was, this is not constitutional.
Yeah.
And so, he kind of backed out and then faced a public hanging, which... he hid in a basement to prevent the public execution. But federal prosecutors said Trump was determined to remain in power in conspiracies that targeted a bedrock function of the United States federal government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. I mean, this indictment could not be clearer. And I think that, as you say, is the reason why this one will stick, is because... what can Trump do about it? And let's not forget, we've got Georgia with Fani Willis. We've got the perfect phone call where he phones Brad Raffensperger and says, find me one more vote than was there. I mean, it's all on video. It's all on audio tape. It's all been photographed. It's like the evidence. It's not like there's like an evidence bag, clear polythene with like a hair in it, and everyone's like, it all boils down to this. It's like it's the evidence is compelling.
I mean, they bragged about it. And look. I was talking about Stephen Miller earlier. Stephen Miller was on Fox News saying, "Yes, we're going to have our own electors, and when those electors are going to vote, they literally told everyone the plan."
Yeah. Peter Navarro as well.
Right, yeah. It's like you're on
proud
TV.
Of the plan. Like they thought that they'd found a loophole where it's possible for a president to overturn an election. Like they thought they'd found... And that almost proves how dumb these people are, or how committed to the cult they are, that they didn't see that their actions could be considered illegal.
Yeah, and so many, and it really is the if you look at who was there at the end, so you kind of talk about it. They actually mentioned like CISA, the CISA, the information security guys, and how he told them there was no interference. That when he announced that, he got fired. It's just these were the dregs that were left, right? The Kash Patels and all these like just these bottom feeders were the ones you saw their moment to step forward and walk into the limelight, and this was their moment, and they were going to go for it, and it's pathetic. I mean, honestly, it's pathetic. We got to a point where that was okay. It's sad that it took 2 years to get to this point where we're fine.
Yeah,
2.5
I've said
years.
that a few times.
It's like
the passage of time almost has made it acceptable for this to be okay, because his supporters in the meantime have seen that he's got away with it. Yep. All they've heard day after day is him saying that it's, that there was election fraud and there's a witch hunt. And now he's using this phrase, election interference. He's stolen a phrase that has been used to describe what we used to say was the Russians interfering in 2016, election interference. And he's now using it to claim that it's Biden trying to imprison his adversary in Donald Trump, which of course is bullshit.
Yeah, 100%. And again, for me, I've had such a visceral reaction to January 6th since the beginning. I mean, again, I don't know. Even more so, I'm completely not dispassionate about this. I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off. It took 2.5 years. I have been disappointed. Everyone wants to give Merrick Garland credit. I'm not sure if I'm one of those guys. It took too long to put Jack Smith in there. Smith's done his job. You're right. 2.5 years is a long time. I think Brazil has already banned Bolsonaro from running for office again. It was like, okay, what is wrong with our justice system? And I get it, the wheels of justice turn slowly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But again, when you read that indictment, I'm sure you looked at it, right? There's not a single surprise in there. I mean, I've been reading, Alice, we were just gone now. I've been going through people's, smart people's analysis. I have so many I got a lot of lawyers in my Twitter feed, and or whatever they call it. And there's no real surprises. Most of the stuff is so well documented by the media, by the January 6th committee. It's always been there, but no one would, until Jack Smith said, "Hey, by the way, these are all freaking crimes, and you should go to jail for it. And here's the crime it's going to be." I mean, I think we were all waiting with bated breath to find out what exactly all this illegal shit he'd done, what crime those would be. You know what I mean? And now we know. Conspiracy to defraud the government.
The crimes play out in real time.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. It's like we watched January 6th on television.
Right.
We actually saw it. We've seen footage of like backstage just before the Stop the Steal rally with all of them hanging out and having a great time. Kimberly Guilfoyle going, let's take back our
the
country.
Speech in the Ellipse.
Right. I mean, it's so explicit. The evidence is explicit. It was done on television. We live in this generation where everything is televised, where everything is posted, and a bit like people going out for dinner and like not talking across the table. They're too busy on their phones posting pictures of the meal that they haven't yet eaten. It's like we live in this kind of 24/7 media environment, and when you commit a crime against your own country, you can rest assured that every little thing that you have posted as the defendant is being used against you.
Is now evidence. I mean, these fools want to call it a dark day in American history. This is one of the brightest days in American history, in my opinion. Right. This is a day where we really lived up to the belief that no one is above the law. I joke a lot, and you're British. I joke a lot about we had a whole ass revolution about this. My ancestor, believe it or not, one of my ancestors was an actual Minuteman, like a no kidding Minuteman outside of Boston, who marched to Boston to the siege of Boston, and I joke a lot. There's no royalty here. We literally did this whole thing where we got rid of that, and so change that. The basis of everything we built from the beginning was that no one is above the law, that everyone answers to it. And I think too often we had norms and traditions guiding things, But this has proven that. I think I'm gratified today that we're proving our system says no. Doesn't matter if you're a former president. Doesn't matter if you're a presidential candidate. If you broke the law, you will have to face the consequences of that. You'll have to face a jury of your peers. I'll do air quotes on peers. But I that's the other part. I personally cannot wait to see what a DC jury looks like for this trial. It's gonna be wild, man. Be there. It's gonna be wild.
I would love to be there. I get a feeling that Jack Smith wants everyone to read this indictment. He's been very clear about that. He's encouraged us to read the full indictment. He said the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened. He described the insurrection as an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy that was fueled by lies and the defendant targeted at obstructing the bedrock function of the U.S. government admissions process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. I mean, he also, like you, has this kind of patriotic desire to make sure that the U.S. democracy gets back on track. Because, let's be clear, it used to be held up as this kind of great bastion of freedom around the world, and it is not anymore. It is done. Like, it is over. There is no clear democracy in the U.S. until Trump is prosecuted.
I agree.
He is the kind of counter argument to democracy, ultimately. Yeah. Because if he runs again and loses, which he would, he'll say it's fraud again, and a lot of people will believe him.
Right, and we had violence last time, and it'll be worse this time. You know why? They're prepared this time. I had a guest on my show the other day, a guy named Jeff Charlotte, and Jeff's writing a book. He wrote a book called The Undertow, Scenes from the Slow Civil War, and he traveled the country talking to these people who believe that there's a civil war imminent, that there is violence to be had, and while some lamented that, some were eager for it, and it's only grown. There are people eager for violence right now, hungry for, believe that it must occur, and it's all being encouraged by the leader of the one of our major political parties. It's a terrifying moment. As I think my friend Steve Schmidt used to say quite a bit, this is the first time in American history we didn't have a peaceful transfer of power. People have tried to even people on the left have tried to spin it. Oh, we had a peaceful transfer of power. No, we didn't actually. We had a violent transfer of power. It failed. It just didn't succeed. Okay, and so that transfer of power was a violent transfer of power. It failed on the steps of the Capitol, and that should terrify anyone. And you're right. I think it brings the world's view of America down. That to not prosecute this, to not have consequences for it, I'm not sure we'll ever be the same country. Because I talk about a lot in my show. A friend of mine is a sociologist, and here at one of the universities in St. Louis, and they talk about doing what they call a penetration drill. And what you do is in societal norms, societal norm is penetrated, where it's broken and reset. Studies have shown that if you do not reset that norm through criminal, you reset, tighten the rules, punish those who broke it. If you allow that to not occur, this is the new norm. Right? That new place is a new norm. And that's what I've always been afraid of with the violence after January 6th and Trump not being prosecuted, that if we allow this to go unpunished, if we don't tighten the rules, this will be the new norm. These, showing up on January 6th every 4 years will be normal. You know what I mean? Like, it's our 4-year quadrennial attack on the Capitol. And so I'm thrilled to see Jack Smith doing his part to reset the norm back to where it belongs. And then now I expect Congress to tighten the rules. Now, I do believe they have tightened the rules quite a bit on January 6th and the counting in the Electoral College in anticipation that's not occurring again. But we need to see more. I would like to see more of the rules. All these little rules like the Hatch Act. Where they literally used our White House as a backdrop for the Republican National Convention, completely against the law. And they haven't changed the law. They haven't tightened the law. I mean, it's just things like that make me insane.
I agree about the new norms. For me, the biggest problem with new norms is alternative facts and post-truth.
Right.
Where it's like it's okay to say anything. It doesn't matter if it's not rooted in truth or facts. Just say it, and say it a lot. Yep. That is the thing that worries me the most, because, there used to be a thing called a moral compass. There used to be a thing called shame, feeling a sense of shame. Yeah. And, so a politician would resign because they were like, oh, I can't handle the heat. And we certainly have that in the UK. I mean, we had a prime minister a year or so ago who lasted 2 weeks and was ousted because of shame. In fact, we had 3 prime ministers in 6 months.
Yeah, the head of lettuce lasted.
Right, and this is the problem. It's like here in the US, people hang on and they rewrite the rules to kind of suit their criminality. And I just wish, and I include Dianne Feinstein in this as well. I just wish people would just let it go and recognize that their time is done. Just finally, I want to read this response from Donald Trump, this statement, because I think it's kind of interesting for us to analyze. He posted this today, of course, at exactly the same time that the indictment was announced. He said, "This is nothing more than the latest corrupt chapter in the continued pathetic attempt by the Biden crime family and their weaponized Department of Justice to interfere with the 2024 presidential election, in which President Trump is the undisputed frontrunner and leading by substantial margins." Well, let's deal with that paragraph first, right?
Jesus.
Right? So the first thing we should point out is that Biden did not bring about this indictment. Just because Trump ran the Justice Department as his own.
Yeah.
Biden doesn't, and Jack Smith is one away from Merrick Garland, who is one away from Joe Biden, who, let's be honest, Joe Biden don't know what's going on with anything, right? So, claiming the Biden crime family exists, well, that was proved wrong only yesterday when their star witness turned out to be completely the opposite.
But Anthony, he answered his son's calls during meetings. Obviously, because he's in on it. He asked him about the weather. I mean, shit. Open and shut.
Paragraph 2, but why did they wait 2.5 years to bring these fake charges right in the middle of President Trump's winning campaign for 2024? Why was it announced the day after the big crooked Joe Biden scandal broke out from the halls of Congress? I like the fact that some of this is written in the first person and some of it's in the third person. You can tell that it's been dictated and then it's been fixed, right?
It's actually been written in the margin, there's a Sharpie in the margin, like he likes.
Right? I think it was written in the bath, Fred. It says, the answer is election interference. The lawlessness of these persecutions of President Trump and his supporters is reminiscent of Nazi Germany in the 1930s, the former Soviet Union, and other authoritarian dictatorial regimes. President Trump has always followed the law and the Constitution with advice from many highly accomplished attorneys.
There it is.
The attorneys. There it is. But this thing of projecting using phrases like election interference, talking about, the Nazis, when of course the Nazis were only kind of brought into conversation or national conversation off the back of the Nazis that followed Donald Trump, It's like
literal Nazis.
Literal Nazis doing demonstrations in Florida and Ron DeSantis refusing to condemn them,
Yep.
He says these un-American witch hunts will fail and President Trump will be re-elected to the White House so he can save our country from abuse, incompetence and corruption that is running through the veins of our country at levels never seen before. Final paragraph. 3 years ago we had strong borders, energy independence, no inflation and a great economy. No inflation. Today we are a nation in decline. President Trump will not be deterred by disgraceful and unprecedented political targeting. Fred, that's the best he could do.
It's exhausting, It's just the same shit over and over, the same BS, the same, and the rewriting of history. And people believe it. It makes me sad. I'm very online and they buy it, but it doesn't matter. It just means 12 jurors.
Playing the victim thing is the theme, isn't it? Because
always.
Actually, what he's doing is fundraising off the back of the victimhood, right? So we just heard a couple of days ago that $40 million that was raised has been spent on Trump's legal fees, over $100,000 on Melania's hairstyles. I mean, this is the point. It's like the grift will not stop, even when he's in a federal prison.
Well, who do you think paid for that plane to be remodeled? It wasn't him. It was his PAC. I mean, he actually got his crappy jet remodeled because of this. I mean, this is the life. He's living the life of a king. Unanswerable to anyone. Does whatever he wants. He's got unlimited amounts of money they can manipulate. And just shows how weak our laws are, by the way, that the PACs can just use money just limitlessly. Just like DeSantis is doing with his stupid PAC, just absolutely bending the rules as far as they'll bend to the point where there's not even it's just a joke to try to say. The idea that they're actually not talking to each other. It's the same way with this. I mean, technically, he's not supposed to coordinate this PAC, but oddly, they're somehow paying for all these things. They've just spit on every one of the rules. And then, of course, the Dems, God bless them, they play by the rules. So it's like, oh, well, we can't do anything about it. It's like, no, actually, we should. Yeah, that's where people like us come in. I had a discussion with someone recently, and they're like, well, we don't want Joe Biden getting involved in the dirtiness. I was like, great, that's what I'll do. And I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to say F you to these guys. That's what we do. We need people who are willing to take up the fight. But yeah, we've got to start start fighting on their ground. It was one of the joys about being a Lincoln Project guy back in the day was, we didn't really care. We knew what the battle was about and the stakes. And that's me. I mean, we know the stakes of this. You do. Your own country, your previous country's history is littered with how things can go wrong.
Reminders of what, the rise of fascism looks like. And, I used to live next door to a bomb site from the Second World War. I mean, literally, it was a daily reminder of what could happen if you don't stand up for democracy. Yep. Fred, I wish you luck with On Democracy with Wellman, as we know.
Likewise.
One of the great podcasts available on the Midas Touch Network and wherever you get yours. You hear me every day on the 5-Minute News podcast. I do MAGA Uncovered on Wednesdays and the Weekend
Good show, by the way.
On Sundays.
I love Ron.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And let's see how this plays out in the next few days. Great to chat, Fred, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.